the research was starting to come out that strength is great, but what really matters more is balance. And there are these developmental sequences, and it's more than crawl, sit, walk. There's all these little nuances. And what I started realizing is it was a different version of the muscle reset that I'd learned from someone else. If this isn't working, what comes before it? Which is really different than most therapy things right now. Even if you go in and your knee hurts, they're going to do something with your knee. And I look at it like, okay, what does the knee need to do? And how does it work with the foot and the hip? And what's the order that it should have learned that in? And then rebuild that. So the one thing that's really different with bridging is that we don't give you homework. Once we go through a sequence of movements that are developmentally like in order, we don't do it again. Which Robyn, we met 2+ months ago, and we didn't have to redo anything. And it was just one time.
Yeah. And we met through a mutual friend. And I was fascinated with everything that Cara created and is doing. And so when I told her I had had a hysterectomy a few years ago, and that I was still having a lot of pain around my pelvic area, she said, let me have you in the office. And to what Cara's describing in terms of an order of things, of seeing how things work together. But first, even looking at the way you stand and your balance in general. And I'm thinking, I'm strong and I'm balanced, and I was not. And seeing how I hold my head, it fascinated me because I don't think most of us realize when you're not totally in alignment. I was shocked by the before and the after, which Cara is so good at making sure you see the before and after. And I was very fortunate because I also had this taped.
I'm just trying to visualize the experience. So if someone comes to you, Cara, is it typically because they are having an issue and they haven't been able to diagnose maybe the root cause of that? And then do you just eyeball them when they walk into your office?
Can I add one more thing to your question, which is about why they come to you for a specific issue? That issue may not actually even be related to movement. It may be related to anxiety or something emotional. So I just wanted to make sure that's...
I think that's because in my mind, just trying to picture when you first started talking, I'm thinking chiropractic. Is this about bones and skeleton and posture and aches and pains in that sense? But it sounds like it's so much more. So maybe if you can just take a step back and just talk about when someone comes to you, how that process works.
Sure. So this is partly where engineering background comes into play, because I looked at all these developmental things and I'm like, geez, there's hundreds of little different movements. I can't check for all of these. And over time, when I came to realize there's pivotal key transitions that actually matter. It's like playing video games, you have to level up. And so when you come in, we actually check 14 things, and we can pretty much tell exactly what's going on with only 14 things.
And by the way, it doesn't feel like that. It doesn't feel like 14 things.
And it takes like less than 2 minutes.
That's what I'm saying.
We want to see, how do you function in the real world? So just standing up, does your body have this intrinsic, innate balance control reactions? And so if you're standing there, I'll just put my hands on your shoulders and just move you in 3 different planes of motion, the 3D of our world. And do you move? Is it easy and smooth? Is it symmetric? Do you feel like you're going to fall over? Or does nothing move? And I joke, it's like nothing moves, but you're centered. So that's better than being off center. But we'd like to get both, where you're centered and moving. So we start with that, and then we'll have you sit. We'll do the same thing, because that tells me what's going on in your core without your legs helping. And then we'll let you lay down on just your back, and literally I can lift one leg. And just by the way that you lift it, do they feel like they weigh the same? That sounds so silly, but when you check it and they don't, you can tell. And then you can also tell it changes. And then we want to know, just very simply, does your leg turn? If it's a log, can we roll it? And do they roll the same as each other? We check arms. I'll hold by the wrist and just wiggle around. And is the wrist stuck? Maybe you broke your arm and had a cast. Does your elbow move? Does your shoulder move? There's some interactions with the core and the limbs. How does your core and your limbs work together? Do you roll? And then there's another one where we have you hold your knees. You're curled up in a ball. And can we rock you? And this is one where the anxiety comes in. What we find is when we can't rock somebody, like an egg, that often they're anxious, because that rocking, that internal ability to rock, That's a calming mechanism. And, was it there to start with? So your long labor, that would be a reason why that might have been messed up. Fast labors have their own issues too. So if somebody doesn't rock, like rocking isn't going to calm them, or they really crave it. And that's that baby that you just can't put down. And then we scoop underneath the shoulders and we just rock the shoulders. We're looking at, do parts of the core, are they individually mobile? So we've got the upper part, the chest, and the lower part, the abdomen. And each of those has different movement characteristics. And then we'll just cradle under the head and see just very lightly, does the head move? And often it doesn't. And people are like, I always carry my stress here. Do you carry it there or does it find its way there because it's tight? And often the head movement resolves itself when something else changes. So we really are trying to get at the root cause. And then we'll have people flip on their stomach. Again, that's 2 minutes right there. We'll flip on their stomach. And I just want to see, like swimming legs, can I lift their leg up behind them? And then there's one we call frog legs, is can we turn their leg out to the frog position? And if that one is hard, people doing squats for exercise or trying to sit crisscross, that's going to be a challenge. C-sections are one of the big ones that have that mucked up. And 33% of all moms have had C-sections. And then we checked, does the shoulder come back? And that's about it. It's so quick, but it's all these really basic relationships. And if they don't work, then all the movement that you're doing is causing a compensation. And that's where the stress and the pain come from. We want to fix the micro movements between all the pieces, and then the stress goes away, and then the pain goes away.
What's coming to my mind is how your body can tell a story.
It does.
Even realize, and you are able to hear and interpret that story. Who would have thought?